Are you a gambling man? Because I am not. This here is a zero vice, by the book, Sigma Christian, all on good behavior, shoes shined and pants ironed, swell sort of channel. So when I say I'm betting against Netflix Kakegurui, I am not gambling. The house is losing this one. This show is going to be forgotten before it even comes out. When is it out, you ask? Tomorrow. See? You already forgot. Riddle me this. What do you get when you take crazy girls, gasming over winning and losing at gambling, betting their lives, inflicting self-harm, even becoming slaves over games of chance? And then you add Western insensibilities to the mix? Now we all know where this is going. Modern audience shows and their modern audience will always say the reason this needs to be taken out is because it is unnecessary. Women do not act like this in the earth reality. Telling on themselves, by the way. Having someone gasm over eating in Food Wars or a winning hand in Kakegurui is going to be called all sorts of things. Gooner bait for incels, horny behavior, just go watch smut. What is the reason she even does this? Why does she throw her head back with this over-the-top anime expression? It is not necessary for the plot for her to act this way. And that's the entire reason this show not only shouldn't and won't be properly adapted by Netflix, but why it simply cannot be adapted. The Western activism entertainment zeitgeist is completely dominated by extremist politics and a need to reflect what they imagine the real world to be. There is no concept to them of a piece of art that does not have a purposeful, directed political message behind it. Everything they do, they say, is to save lives, to redress imbalance, to change the problematic past, and every piece of corporate product they make is needed and necessary. This is why they cannot do this show. The dialed up to 11 hornification of this girl and her psychotic, imbalanced emoting are unnecessary. She's not there for some deep meaning. She is a thrill seeker who specifically stands out because she is in a school full of serial cheaters who are using their gambling systems of the school to earn prestige and money for their futures. Well, she not only unmasks their cheating, but she doesn't care about the future. She seems to be the only one there who draws pleasure from a completely random roll of the dice. Netflix version immediately starts with Yumiko saying she needs to do something bad to make the world better. That's nonsense on two counts. She is not there to make the world a better place. She is a compulsive gambler. It is literally the title. But even more so, to imply that gambling is something she would consider bad is like a story about Catherine the Great, where she doesn't like horse front riding. Notice how they force some revenge story about family into the show? Suddenly, this has swapped genres entirely and is a revenge murder mystery with a dedicated assassin with clear motivations. We don't even get a reason for why she is like this in the anime. Where she came from, why she's there, she just shows up, she's mysterious, she's off her rocker, she's a woman. There's zero reason ever given for why she is like how she is. And it gives you the impression she has no goals, she has no purpose, she is literally just there to enjoy the thrill of gambling. It is unnecessary, and that is the point. Netflix has already completely killed her character just in the trailer. Show isn't even out yet, and despite the only visual that is almost right is having an actress who actually looks like her, something they didn't even try for any of the other characters. They threw her personality out the window and her backstory. And this is the one character they almost got right on some things. The visuals for this show are atrocious. The costumes look cheap, but even more importantly, anime has a lot of style, and the characters here are so far off what they should be. If you took out the main character, fans of the anime wouldn't even know this was an adaptation. This is like doing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but they're all hogs instead of just April. Before the argument, well, why do you care if the visuals suck? This is such a terrible argument that gets used, unfortunately, way too often in these discussions. Television is an audio-visual form of entertainment. There are only two parts to the way it tells its story: the part you see and the part you hear. If they are this lazy and bad, with arguably the more important half of this, there is no reason to believe they've done anything else well either. The visual character design, especially in anime, says a great deal about the character. Look at Karari here. In the anime, this mask and hair shows elegance, enigma, makes her a mystery, a blank slate. You know little about her, you cannot read her expression, and when you add that to a school that is all about gambling, she has the perfect poker face, unreadable. There are established tropes around a character like this that help you understand her to some degree before she even opens her mouth. Now, let's look at the Netflix version. It is a nondescript person with a 2020 mask on. Is she sick? Does she have the virus? Should we be social distancing? How about Runa? In the anime, she looks whimsical, casual, preoccupied with childish things like games and candy. But since she's on the student council, there's the underlying assumption that there must be something more to her than meets the eye. Now, let's look at the Netflix version and see what we can tell at a glance. On second thought, I don't like looking at that. Let's move on. Ugly characters, ugly outfits, zero adherence to the lore and story, ruins almost everything it touches. The weird Sonic the Hedgehog eyes is the perfect example. If they had not listened to fans and made Sonic look closer to his in-game appearance, we would have gotten a Sonic trilogy with a single movie. Instead, they listened. They captured the characters of Sonic well. They got a great actor to play Robotnik, and now the Sonic trilogy is getting a fourth movie. That's the power of taking a franchise specifically because it has a built-in audience and not immediately saying, hey, we do not need the old, toxic, problematic fans of this franchise. We're going to make our own thing for a modern audience. Looking at you, Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, Batman, Arkham's Kill the Justice League. We could do this all night. If you're not even going to make an attempt, why did you pick up the IP to use for your show in the first place? This dude becomes a slave. For those who are just listening and not watching, I showed a pic of the main character in the anime, the main guy character, that is, pretty harmless. And the Netflix version where he is race swapped. This guy becomes a slave, by the way. Guess what race they swapped the slave to? 3 tries. Bet you can't figure it out. Fine. A hint. The Netflix show is not called Kakegurui. It's called BET. What is this pattern with Western virtue signaling corporations making these changes specifically to show how deeply they care not to do anything slightly offensive, and then they do the worst thing possible? Cannot wait for Disney to do this for their live-action Tarzan. Anime excels at incredible, vibrant, and thematic character design. In this show, they took one element of these characters, taped it on, and it just looks out of place. There's no thought for aesthetics and what the hair, outfit, makeup, and stance says. This is like doing a Sailor Moon cosplay where your entire outfit is your regular clothes with a tiara and a photo of the moon taped to it. This is fine quality for a grade 3 school play. This is unacceptable for the biggest streaming corporation in the world. But jesters, you cannot possibly do a live-action adaptation that follows an absurd story. It needs to be changed for a modern audience. First of all, if you think this, maybe just don't make anime or game adaptations. You're clearly too retarded to handle it. Second of all, we just had a really good One Piece animation adaptation in live action. One Piece character designs are some of the most this only works because it is anime you can get. Now, Kakegurui, admittedly, is a weird anime. Even as someone who's seen hundreds of anime, this is one that is, to use the colloquial term, not made for the normies. Which makes you wonder, why even make a Western live action for this? Yes, the manga and anime for this did very well for a niche, but it is still a niche. And third, there's already a live-action Japanese adaptation of this show. Yes, there is a far superior version of what they are making now, though you will have to read what they are saying at the bottom of the screen, which, despite having a smaller budget, looks higher quality and pretty much gets all the character designs spot on. So there's no excuse for Netflix to be unable to do the same. Jim Carrey took one of the wildest cartoon villains, a giant bald Eggman who uses animal robots to fight a hedgehog, and managed to be a masterpiece 3 movies in a row. Look, Netflix. When I say you cannot make an anime like Kakegurui into a live-action show, just to clarify this so you do not understand incorrectly, I am not saying it cannot be done by anyone. I'm specifically saying you, Netflix, cannot do this adaptation. You are the problem. And even if I was a gambling man, there are no odds in the world that can make me bet on bet.